Back in the day, whenever you wanted to do a dungeon or a raid in WoW, it was more than a simple button click. It was a decision with weight. First off, you'd consult your friends list to see if anyone you know is on. Then, maybe that healer you grouped with before is on. He accepts the invite. But, you've still got 3 DPS spots to fill, so off you scamper to a major city, you'd park your butt down and spam trade chat. Looking for 3 more DPS, heroic Sethic halls, don't suck, whisper me. After 2 hours of this, you'd finally get your group together. You head for the dungeon entrance, and then you'd be rewarded with a hard as balls plethora of boss fights. By the time it's all over, you feel like you've been on some epic journey. And then comes the LFG tool. It works by filling those missing spots, the ones you were previously trying to fill for 2 hours. It fills them in a matter of seconds by adding players from other realms, then teleporting you straight to the instance, which was and remains to this day a massive convenience. A lot of people appreciate the fact they don't have to waste time getting a group together, because really all you want to do is kill bosses, which is fine. And as such, the LFG tool is a godsend for them. But you also see the negative effects. WoW is a very social game. A lot of its replayability comes not from the game itself, but from the people involved. Guilds form to work together, teams of 25 or 10 people to kill massive bosses. When teamwork is used to overcome challenges, or when you spend enough time with a person, relationships will form. This is a universal fact. You see it all the time in real life. You grow up with someone, you'll have a connection there. You work with someone, connection. You raid with someone, connection. You save someone from a fire engulfed building, connection, and likely 3rd degree burns. The LFG tool takes away the ability to make connections, but for a second let's explore why. Is it because there's no longer any challenge organizing groups? When things are that convenient, what are the effects? Well, it removes the need to consult your friends list to fill spots. That removes the need element from that connection. You no longer need a good player you trust, because that player can be replaced at any time within seconds. As a real world example, imagine you're an employer. You've been looking for someone to hire for weeks now, because you need someone to work the kitchen. Finally, you find this guy, you hire him, but he keeps breaking dishes, just by accident. With the old LFG system, because of the hassle involved in replacing him, you'd teach this guy how to hold dishes properly. You'd go out of your way to do it. So you'd form a connection and everything would be fine. With the new LFG tool, you find and hire that employee in 3 seconds. You have no idea who he is, you're both wearing masks over your face, you're both anonymous. He breaks a dish, so you kick him out of the building, and 3 seconds later, another anonymous guy turns up. You hire him, you order him to the kitchen, and then you spend 10 years working in complete silence. There's no point forming a connection because everyone's anonymous. Everyone can be replaced in 3 seconds, and there is no penalty for doing that. So what's the solution here? When the LFG tool uses cross-realm queuing, that makes everyone anonymous, more or less, because you'll likely never see that person again. So long as you don't see a player again once the dungeon is finished, you will never form a connection, okay? Or it'll be extremely hard. Players being replaced in 3 seconds, that isn't so bad, because if players weren't anonymous, the penalty would be obvious. You're booting someone from your own realm, and as such, there is potential for long-term consequences. You might get yourself blacklisted, or you get called the server douchebag, which sucks. Reputation suddenly becomes important because you don't want people to say to their guild, "Don't group with this guy, he booted me, he's a jerk." So spending ages looking for members, once again, that's not a big deal. All this really does is make the completed dungeon feel more epic. And while I'm on that topic, LFG dungeon difficulty. This has been the subject of quite some debate, and I mentioned earlier that you form connections by either spending time with someone or overcoming challenges with them. Normal and heroic dungeons offer no challenge. That's right, I didn't say some challenge or little challenge, I said no challenge. You can complete them on autopilot. You will never reach a boss that gives you pause, unless a bunch of your players are intentionally griefing. That is where challenge mode comes in. Challenge modes have this difficulty, the one you saw very early on in Cataclysm. But for my part, I simply ignore these challenge mode dungeons because they offer no rewards for progression apart from valor points, though there are much easier ways to get that. If they offered something like challenge mode only gear for the equivalent of 5-man raiding, but separate from all the other progression, that'd be fine. But instead, you get transmog sets and gold, I think. This isn't progression. This is fancy looking indulgent nonsense like mounts, or pets, or mushroom chairs. LFRs are exactly the same, that's looking for raid. When you're given no challenge, surrounded by anonymous people who can be replaced at any second and there's no penalty for doing so, it is impossible to form connections. WoW is a very social game, this I reiterate. It's about loot, it's about kills, it's about downing that pain in the ass boss that has been killing your group for a month. But it's teamwork and connections that hold these things together. Just as PvP is about testing your skill against another player, otherwise battlegrounds without other players are just islands with moving target dummies in them. Before I launch into my more biased, unscripted thoughts on the topic, let me know in the comment section how you feel about this. Do you agree that without difficulty, connections or consequences that WoW's dungeons feel less epic, more wooden? So let me tell you a story about the PTR LFR, that's really difficult to say. I did a boss called Darumu, which is I think it's like the 7th boss in the Throne of Thunder. And the LFRs had not been adjusted for difficulty yet. They, pretty much everyone's item level got reduced, and the bosses, they had the same mechanics as in normal and heroic mode, but they were scaled down so that they did less damage. But the mechanics that killed you in one hit, such as Darumu's Eye Beam, that still killed you in one hit. So a lot of people kept dying, and there were other things involved too, like you had to light up certain areas of the room with a color, like 3 players would get this color beam. They have to make sure they're lighting up the correct places. People have to be switching to the ads, and it's because some people, they figured they were so used to the LFR on live servers, the 5.0 ones, that to come across something that would actually give them pause, for them to stand back and say, damn, I'm getting killed all the time, what is happening? And people just don't know how to react to that, because it's like difficulty, but in like an anonymous come, join, and then leave immediately environment. So you'd explain something to someone, and then they wouldn't get it, or they'd leave immediately, or something like that, people DCing. So that kind of difficulty, that, even though that sounds awful and horrible, I loved that, because you could actually start, we were talking to everyone. Everyone was talking to each other. They were saying, what if we try this? What if we, move here for the beam and then move somewhere else? Maybe if we follow this player, we could survive. So people were coming up with strategies on their own and sharing with each other. That was amazing. Instead of this freaking LFR system where people just walking around, walking in the shit, I'm not getting killed. So that's not rewarding. That's really, it makes you cringe. It really does. And there's no challenge involved, so you don't feel connected to anyone. Because when there is challenge, then you actually start, strategizing with other people. That's how it is. So as soon as the LFR comes up, I'm just imagining they're gonna nerf everything to hell. People are just gonna not get killed by anything, and it's just gonna be a grind fest. And it's disappointing. So I really hope that doesn't happen. But yeah. Likewise with raids, in the normal 10-man runs, right, for 5.0, and I would add people to my friends list after I did a pug. The player, let's say like it's a tank. A tank did a really good job, and they're not in my guild. What I would do is at the end of the dungeon, the raid, I would add that person to my friends list. And I would say, dude, that was really awesome. You're pretty damn good at this game, so we should do some more stuff. And yeah, from there you could just, every week it's like, I don't have enough members. Oh, let's get this guy in because he's really cool. He's really good. So that is something that is missing from LFR and LFG, right? They take away that ability to form that connection. So you could just get anyone in at any time, at any moment, for any reason. So if you think back to BC and vanilla, you would do a dungeon and then you would finish it, and then most of the time you would just add that person to your friends list. Like, you just make a little note that says, this person is a tank, I did this dungeon with them, they were really good. And from there you could just add them again if you want. You could go quest with them afterwards. It was really good. It was really fun. It was a hassle finding people without the LFG tool. Like, I really like the LFG system. Alright, I don't really like LFR because I think it takes away the whole point of the system. But LFG, back in the day, it was really difficult to do dungeons because you had to be on at the right times, otherwise there weren't enough people on. You'd spend an hour in trade and it would be like, kill me already. So it wasn't fun. But this makes it so that you can just do dungeon any time of the day. So half the time I'm up in the middle of the night. I'm recording this at 2 a.m. And that is the time I like to do stuff like that, just to do a random dungeon. And so in that respect it is good. But as I said before, if you make it anonymous and all that, it's not going to work. People don't feel connected. No one's going to talk. Every group is just a silent march to the bosses. And the boss's mechanics are nerfed, so there's no challenge, there's no reason to talk to anyone. So, I mean, even if it was still anonymous and everything, if you could still have a challenge involved in the dungeon, something to bond over, even though you won't see that person again, that would make it interesting, wouldn't it? It would be like a fun little dynamic. This is a perfect example. I recently did the new boss in one of the dungeons for 5.0. It was in that brewery place, Stormsat Brewery or whatever. And one of the bosses, it was supposed to be in the launch of Pandaria, but it was not. It was it was like one of two possible bosses. So you got this boss where I think everyone's fought it. It's where you got two bosses, and if you attack a certain one, after a while it becomes immune. So you have to switch to the other one and all that. It's my dog. And that means when they added a new boss and people didn't know what the hell it was, because it was a silent march from the start to there. And so people are like, oh my god, new boss, what do we do? What happens? What is this? You know, that's exciting. Even though the boss was it was simply just attack the stuff and it's easy. But the fact that people saw something new and they were really excited by it, that's something you want to see. Likewise with the challenges and all that. So those are all my thoughts. This last bit was rambly because I haven't scripted it. I'm just coming up with random thoughts and I'm saying them. So yeah, thanks for sticking around with that, guys, and I'll see you pretty soon. Have a good one.